Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the January 2024 session of the Disabilities and Conditions of Aging Network. If you're new to the group, which I don't think any of you are, but if you are new to the group, it really is about connecting and making certain that the different organizations and individuals who are working within these communities within Indiana, whether it's central Indiana or beyond, have an opportunity to just simply talk about what's going on at whether we're talking local level or individual organizations or broader statewide issues that are facing all of us. But it's just a chance to talk about what we need, what we want to celebrate, and what we need to support one another with. So with that in mind, I will very quickly say I am Jeremy Warner. Walking Spirit is my organization. We're focused on accessible diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, consulting and support for any organization that touches the public sector, whether it's a for-profit, nonprofit, government, whatever. There are some other services involved, but I'll let you guys look at my website sometime and learn about those. And that is walkingspirit.org. I'm also going to quickly jump in for Kristen Ludeker-Siebert, who is driving today. And while she is listening in, and I saw her camera turn on for just a second there, she is with Healthier Hamilton County Systems of Care, and they have a event coming up on February 20th, the Hamilton County Cares Prevention Event, which is from 5 to 7:30 p.m. at Ivy Tech Noblesville. There is a link to a flyer that I have just added to the chat. So that is there for anybody if they want to see it. The only other update from my end, if you didn't catch it right during the free chat period as people were joining, I'm having surgery tomorrow morning on a bone spur at the distal end of my right residual leg. And that hopefully will allow me to utilize my prosthetics more consistently than I have been able to lately. It's a thing that's been there for 18 years, a bone spur that grew as a result of the burn trauma. But my new legs are so amazing that I lost about 10 pounds of weight over the course of a couple months. And now that bone spur is more prominent and causing issues where I can walk around with my legs on for about 6 hours with no issues. But then the more that I wear them, the more painful it becomes. So we're going to fix that. So that's it from my end. I am going to introduce Catherine Tavichian. Would you like to say hello and fill
Sure.
us in on what's going on in your part of our world?
Okay. Catherine Tavidi, and I'm actually with FSSA. And I try to join this call, but I have been sporadic because just so much, there's a lot going on. But I'm a home and community-based services implementation director for FSSA and an advocate for home and community-based services. And I know some of you, I know Carly from previous work I did with people experiencing homelessness, but I'm here just to keep up with what's going on. And also, I know there's a lot going on right now with the um, waiver changes and so forth. And so here also just to listen and answer questions, but I right off, I'm not the expert. So, but if there are questions that we have that I don't know the answer to, I'm happy to get the answers. But I really believe it's important to listen and to, I think a lot of us are concerned about what's going on and not happy about it. There's a lot of pressures, but I'm going to try to figure out the best way to deal with the financial stuff and get people what they need. So that's the goal, anyhow. So, anyhow, hi.
Thank you. Yep, thank you very much. And and it was not the plan, but once we get through the introductions, I'm putting Carly on the spot to talk about some of that. So, and thank
I'm
you.
sure she knows everything about it because she's smart.
And that's the point of us getting together is so that we can
I
benefit
have
from.
not gone back through all 1,800 pages yet.
What? That's all right. We'll hit the high points. So, Sonia, would you like to say hello from accessABILITY?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sonia Eisenhart. I am an independent living advocate here at accessABILITY. accessABILITY is a center for independent living for those that persons that associate or identify with being disabled, and we help them be more independent is what our goal is. Anywhere from putting ramps, grab bars, things like that, people navigate the system, helping them apply for different things. And we're 0 to 100.
Thank you very much. All right, Kristen Call from ChildCare Answers. Would you like to say hi?
Sure. Hi. So I'm this is a new meeting for me. So you may have had contact with my colleagues, Jamie, maybe Jessica. So as a community team, we have a little bit of shakeup in staffing. So I'm happy to be here today. We actually have a new person starting on Monday. Her name is Sarah. So we're still kind of trying to figure out who is here, but hopefully all of you know about ChildCare Answers. We help families find childcare, and especially in supporting helping them, advocate for themselves with inclusive childcare as well. So glad to be here.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank you for jumping in. It's great to have ChildCare Answers represented and to see you guys changing out who's on here for the meeting this month. So thank you. All right, Kristen Ludacre Siebert, I already said hi for you. If you want to jump in and say hello, I'll give you a quick second to do so, but focus on your drive. I also told her that she needed to jam her music and focus on herself while she was driving, so she may not even hear us. All right, Heather Wildrick Holman, would you like to say hi?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Heather Wildrick Holman with Firefly Prevention Program Community Partners for Child Safety, Marion County. A few updates from us I'd like to share today on the call. One is that we will be starting our virtual parent ed support group. We inherited that program from the merger with Families First and Children's Bureau about a year and a half ago. But anyway, we will host it 3 times a year this year in English virtually. Always looking for folks to join that. And then we're also in March going to begin a Spanish version of that group as well. So we're really excited about that. The other thing I want to share is that we are trying to be more intentional. We're not trying, we are being more intentional with thinking about the communities that we serve in terms of really wanting to be multilingual. And we've had some issues with Luna, for example, that I won't go into that rabbit hole with you all today. But anyway, if you check out our careers page, we are intentionally looking to hire a case manager who speaks Haitian Creole and a case manager who speaks Hakachin. The need is great. And so we are wanting to hire definitely a more diverse and staff reflective of the folks that we serve. So thank you.
Heather, and I see Carly has a question too, so I'll jump to give it to her here in a sec. But have you advertised that position with the Immigrant Welcome Center?
Yes. So I will double check with my supervisor, Ashley Sante Doyle. We have reached out to Baki, the Haitian Association of Indiana. I believe we have also reached out to Immigration Welcome Center. Let me double check with Ashley about when she posted that ad. We communicate with HR about all the different places we want it posted. But yeah, and we've also been just reaching out to our networks individually to say, hey, do you know anybody? Have them check out this job posting and consider applying. We have several folks on staff who speak Spanish. We have one person who speaks Pashto, Farsis, French, and then another woman we hired most recently does speak Haitian Creole. But the need is so great. And like I said before, we have had a lot of, we're troubleshooting them. We're getting resolved with the Luna issues we've been having, but we just would prefer to, as much as we can, have folks that can speak it directly and not rely on interpreters, anyway.
Yeah, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. Exodus might Exodus Refugee Center. They might all
Yes.
be an
Okay.
opportunity to find some folks. Although I
Okay.
know they focus mostly on Burmese. So Carly, you
Okay,
had
great.
your hand up. Was there a thought there?
Well, I've got a question. So Heather, because I want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly, when you talk about your parent education, what all does that entail?
So we use it's a support group model. So myself and a few other staff are trained to facilitate a curriculum called Step Into Parenting. It's a 7-week class. And we are looking at things like understanding and unpacking the why of misbehavior, communication styles. We really unpack the differentiation between discipline and punishment and really look at discipline. If we break down the root of that word, it means to teach. So really unpacking a lot of different components of parenting, and helping parents to understand the different parenting styles and really hoping to get them. We call it diplomatic parenting, but you might hear it called gentle parenting. It's also referred to as, oh gosh, my brain is just like, I had a brain fart there. But there's two that sound very familiar, and we're trying to get them away from the authoritarian and more authoritative. But we feel
Sure.
like those words sound too much alike, so we try to shy away from that. But anyway, yeah, it's an 8-week program. It's the curriculum's called Step Into Parenting. And like I said, it used to be put on by Families First, but we inherited that. And I, as a parent, every time I teach it, I just feel like this is really great information. And I feel like everyone who cares for children could benefit from it. But often, sadly, folks that end up at our group are folks that it's really sometimes sadly reactionary. But any and everyone could learn, I think, a lot from that class.
How do people sign up? How do people sign up?
I will get you. I will share with this group our flyer. We have a QR code. We have used a smart sheets, so it's an interest form. We make sure folks know that it does not guarantee a spot in the most recent class, because when we inherited it, there was a humongous wait list. But we've really been able to tease that down. We explore with folks interested. What are their hopes and dreams for improving their parenting, or what, and if it doesn't feel like our class is a great match, we partnered with Brian Carter over at Dad's Inc. And he runs a class called Nurturing Fathers in the off months or off weeks that we're not running ours. And we, Anna, one of my outreach coordinators, will call someone who fills out the interest form to just do that exploration and that, rapport building to see if our class is a good fit, and welcome them to, more often than not, welcome them to start. We do it virtually. I want to share this because the need is so great, and we know that there are other parenting education opportunities out there, but there's a hefty price tag, and that we feel like that's a tremendous barrier to getting information such as this. So ours is free. We offer it virtual because we have folks from all across Indiana attending. So there's no limitations on geographical barrier, boundary lines in terms of who can attend our class. So
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that.
yeah, I'll be sure to get the flyers sent out to everyone, both our English and our Spanish one.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And while you were talking, it reminded me that a few years ago, I did a presentation with ChildCare Answers on parenting and, well, more specifically, talking with kids with disabilities, helping children to be more comfortable with children with disabilities, and also talking about that parenting aspect. So if that's something that you would ever want to add to the curriculum or dig deeper on, let me know. So.
Sure, that would be great. Yeah, and I will quickly say, the one thing I love about the group is that the parents are constantly sharing resources with one another. So Indiana Family to Family is a resource that often gets shared. The Joseph Malley Foundation, so they InSource, so they are just phenomenal, and I'm always so impressed with how they build this rapport, even over a virtual setting, and just begin to share and root each other on. And it's a really great experience to be a part of. So, yeah.
great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Matt Shirk, would you like to say hello?
Can
There
you
you
see
are.
me?
Yes.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I was kind of just staying in the shadows for a bit there. I'm from Indiana Donor Network. So we are Indiana's nonprofit that deals with organ and tissue donation. Rafael Aguilar, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, if he's been, but he passed this along to me and said that this might be something of my interest. So I'm just kind of listening along and seeing what's going on. Our big thing with my job as community outreach coordinator is education, educating people what organ and tissue donation is, how you become a recipient, how you become a donor, getting people registered. So a lot of times I spend in schools talking to students who are getting ready to get their driver's license. So when they get asked if you want to be an organ tissue donor, they're not kind of blindsided, and we give them education on that so they can make an educated decision. And a lot of my focus is also with seniors and groups who don't necessarily go to the BMV all the time, and or people who think that they aren't eligible. So a lot of education. A lot of people think, oh, you wouldn't want what I have, things like that, and just educating people on how they could help save people's lives, and educating them on how important it is to go to the doctor, because organ transplantation could save their life, and so just kind of here and listening, and if you have any questions, let me know. And thank you for letting me join.
Yep, happy to have you. There is actually a question in the chat asking if you would put your contact info in.
I definitely will. Thank you.
Yeah, please put that in there. And that is, so folks who are new, I always attach the chat to the invite for the next month so that folks can see what conversations are going on, who's attending, that kind of stuff. Matt, I actually am a tissue recipient. So if you ever need somebody to talk about that, I didn't know that I was a tissue recipient until about 3 years after my car accident, when the chaplain from, I believe it was Methodist Hospital, reached out and asked if I would talk about what it meant to be a tissue recipient. At which point I found out that I had had cadaver skin before they were able to transfer my own skin or harvest skin grafts from my own body. So that, and even though it's just my leg, there were 6 donors who provided that tissue that I needed for them to be able to get the infections from the burns under control. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, the tissue is often overlooked. People always think organ, but the tissue is very much impacting life-saving as well. And so that's part of that education, is just telling people, you may not be an organ donor, but you could always donate tissue and help people like yourself. I hear a lot about burn victims and things like that. So,
and that's, yeah,
very important. And corneas as well. So, the misconception is your eyes. It's not your eyes, just your corneas, but it still helps people who are blind be able to see. Not with corneal blindness, I should say. So,
right. And I would assume that you have a strong connection with the Lions Club.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Lions Club, Kiwanis Club, all those. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Very good. I'm happy to have you here. Please, if there's anything that any of us can do to support you, please reach out.
All right, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. Krista Martin, would you like to say hello?
Maybe.
Where are you?
I'm home.
Oh, yay. Look at that.
I wouldn't deny you the view. So my name is Krista Martin. I am with Direct Employers Association. I'm the Disability and Community Outreach Specialist for our nonprofit that's built for and by employers. So we have over 1,000 employers that comprise the association. And we also co-host the U.S. National Labor Exchange with the National Association of State Workforce Agencies. So we provide a lot of free resources to our community partners and those involved in employment, not just of people with disabilities, but also our veterans and minorities, women, others. I work heavily with the Native American and Alaskan Native and Native Hawaiian communities as well. So any way that, we can help improve positive employment outcomes and employer engagement, we want to be able to do that. I'm also leading our Disabilities ERG this year as well. So Jeremy, we have a conversation to have around that coming up. And yeah, so I mean, I actually was just on a call earlier this week with a young woman who was a heart and kidney transplant recipient as well. I've worked with a lot of different folks in that realm. And so if you have folks that are recipients and they want to get back to work, that's where vocational rehabilitation and those services come in to get them back at it and recovering and as self-sufficient and independent as possible. Of course, our good friends at accessABILITY as well are an invaluable resource as your local center for independent living. Yeah, so I think that covers the bases.
How did this month's disability showcase go?
It went very well. Yeah, so we had another placement reported with Casey Weldy, who is the Helen Keller National Centers for Deafblind Youth and Adults deafblind specialist here in Indiana. She covers the entire state. So if you are working with folks that experience some level of, hearing combined with, vision loss, it can be, the deafblind community is so large, it doesn't have to be complete blindness and profound deafness there, but if there's some combination and level of, hearing and vision loss, then they work with those folks to help them get skills to pay the bills and get employed. So I think she's had 3 successful placements since we've launched the Indianapolis Disability Talent Showcase back in September 2022. Which is fantastic. So that network meets the 3rd Thursdays of the month from 1 to 2 p.m. In person at accessABILITY and also via Zoom. It's a hybrid monthly meeting to better connect employers, VR, service providers, and qualified individuals with disabilities that are out there job seeking as well, to network, share resources, learn more. So we're thrilled to see that continuing. The FBI had a successful recruitment from one of BOSMA's clients as well. They're going through all the background checks and processes and stuff too. So I can't tell you how, thrilled we are to see how this, group has benefited, so many folks just in the past, not even a year and a half yet, or just coming up on a year and a half. So yeah, all good things.
That's very exciting. There actually was somebody who was on when we met in December and who was on the hybrid end of it. And she and I actually connected a few weeks later.
Nice.
And she actually, as a result of that, is now exploring the self-employment route with Voc Rehab and developing her own business to help people with MS, which is rather amazing. So
that's awesome. And we partner with the National MS Society. So if she wants to connect with our partners there, be happy to, make that connection for her.
Very cool. Thank you. All right, Carly, would you like to both introduce yourself and take over and fill us in on what we're missing and what we need to be aware of?
Sure. So, hi, everybody. I'm Carly Shortino-Poulter. I'm with the ARC of Indiana. I am going to take just a quick little side jaunt because as we've been talking, a couple of emails have come in and there might be a little bit of additional attention on House Bill 1073. This was a bill that was introduced in response to what happened at Brownsburg schools last about a year ago, where I will kindly say that a student was horribly mistreated by staff. But there's a couple of new news stories that are bringing some attention to it because there may be some more information in there. But what the House bill does, it does several different things, but one of the big things that it does is it would require schools to place cameras in classrooms primarily used to instruct students with severe disabilities, as well as areas used for seclusion and timeout. This would be trying to get cameras in spaces where extremely vulnerable students, and especially students who are not able to speak verbally or who have severe communication issues. This would allow cameras in those areas to make sure that those students are protected. So just wanted to give you that heads up, because something while we were on, an email came through and wanted to just give you that. That's not the big issue though. So back in October, the state submitted 3 brand new proposals for Medicaid waivers and 2 amendments to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS. Every 5 years, the state has to reapply to provide waiver services. Okay. And it was that time for what has been called the aged and disabled waiver and what has been called the traumatic brain injury waiver. Those are getting completely overhauled. And then the state also submitted some amendments to the family support waiver and the CIH waiver. Those, with the original plans, were minor changes. One of the things that they were doing with the family support waiver and the CIH waiver, those are designed for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They were creating 2 new services to actually help with employment, and loosening up some service definitions on, I think, 3 other services to try to make it easier to support employment for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So those were relatively minor. Then in December, the state put out a new forecast. They had done one in April of 2023 to forecast what we were spending on Medicaid services and home and community-based services. And when they did a new forecast in December, the state was $1 billion off. I think technically it's 937 million. I'm going to round to $1 billion. There was $1 billion shortfall. I will give the state absolute credit, because what they did was they actually did a deep dive to try to figure out what happened. How did we have this $1 billion shortfall? And so really the 5 big areas that they discovered was that, first of all, there was a big reduction in the federal match that we typically get because Indiana's economy was doing so well. So there was part of it. It was something to do with pharmacy rebates. I saw the words on the screen. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not sure what it means. I got bigger fish to fry. The third issue was the delay in the ABA rate restructuring, because the state originally planned to reduce ABA rates to ABA providers beginning October 1st. That got delayed to January 1st. So we had financial impact there. But the biggest reason wound up being an increased use, specifically in the aged and disabled waiver, not only an increase in enrollment, but then also an increase in service utilization. And specifically, and this is number 5, specifically when it came to attendant care. Okay. Approximately $550 million of that $1 billion shortfall was directly tied to the aged and disabled waiver. So the state has now put out has submitted updated proposals to CMS to make some pretty dramatic changes. They've submitted new plans for all 5 waivers. This starts a brand new public comment period. So public comment is due by February 16th. None of this is set in stone. We are in public comment period. So we are encouraging everybody to submit public comment on this. the changes that are getting the most attention involve paying spouses, paying the parents of minor children, and paying legal guardians to provide services to individuals on what is currently the aged and disabled waiver, what will be either the health and wellness waiver or the pathways for aging waiver. This also affects the TBI waiver. Okay. And guys, this stuff is freaking complicated. There is a ton of confusion. There's a lot of misinformation. So please, by all means, jump in and ask your questions. Interrupt me. I do not think that is rude. That is how my brain works. I'm good with it. Okay. So that is the biggest and most controversial piece to all of this, especially because in approximately May of 2023, the state reassured especially parents of minor children, that this program was going to continue and that it was going to be separated from any pandemic-based regulations, and that this was going to be its own separate thing. And yes, especially parents of minor children could continue to be paid caregivers for their children who are medically complex. Due to this, in an effort to address this nearly $1 billion shortfall, the state has changed their mind on that. Effective January 17th, if one of those legally responsible individuals, so a spouse or a parent of a minor child, if they were not already getting paid to provide those services of attendant care, home and community assistance, I think there are one or two others. If they hadn't already been paid, they would not be allowed to continue to be paid. They would not allow to start being paid. For those who were already getting paid, that can continue until June 30th under this proposal, effective July 1st, because everything starts July 1st, because that's when Indiana's fiscal year begins. They would no longer be able to be paid for attendant care, home community access, those sorts of services. They would have to transition to something called structured family caregiving, where they would be able to provide services. Now, the functional difference between the two, or more importantly, the financial difference between the two, when somebody is providing attendant care, for example, they are working for an agency, they are making an hourly wage just like any other worker would be, and the average wage is in that $13 to $15 an hour range. So certainly nothing exorbitant, okay? If they were to switch to structured family caregiving, that is paid on a per diem basis. So it's paid on a daily rate. With structured family caregiving, those daily rates are categorized into 3 different categories, depending on the severity of the individual's disability. Sorry about that, guys.
Nope.
It's level 1, level 2, level 3. Agencies are paid a daily rate and then pay the person who's actually providing that structured family caregiver service a daily rate. That daily rate averages between $30 and $75 a day. That's the big difference. And the issue here is that we are talking about individuals who tend to be more medically complex. And especially when we're talking about the children, we're definitely talking about children who tend to be more medically complex. So the idea of them, going to a traditional daycare is typically they're not able to go to a traditional daycare. While they do go to school, we're talking about children who are often, who often have more doctor's appointments. They have more specialists that they see. They have therapies that they have to attend. And because they're medically fragile, they're more likely to get whatever illness is traveling around the school, because as much as we like schools, let's be honest, they are petri dishes, so they're going to catch anything that's going around. The impact of that is that those parents often can't work a traditional job because they have to wind up missing so much work to care for their children. They simply cannot maintain that traditional job because there's only so much leeway most employers are willing to give you. And so by the state, when the state was paying those parents to be caregivers, suddenly we had parents who weren't worried about paying their electric bill. who didn't have to figure out, okay, which food pantry is open this week, who didn't have to figure out how they were going to navigate all of those things. So nobody's really getting rich off of this. This was just a way that they were able to pay their bills. The state is now proposing to take that away. So, or to eliminate payments to those legally responsible individuals, and they define that as parents of minor children and spouses. One of the things that's a little controversial at the moment is whether or not this also applies to legal guardians of adults. The way the proposals are written, it does apply to legal guardians of adults as well. And so part of this right now is trying to make sure people know what's going on, trying to make sure that people are getting accurate information, encouraging them to submit public comment on all of this, because again, this is not set in stone. This is currently proposal. There are also a lot of other efforts in the process right now. We have been talking with FSSA on a daily basis on all of this. We've also been talking with legislators on a daily basis about this. We spoke with the lieutenant governor, who has now who is now convening a session of the 1102 task force Monday. I think it's from 10:30 to 11:30. That will be live streamed so that the public can watch. But the lieutenant governor is having Kelly Mitchell, who's the director of DDRS, come in. And without looking at the agenda, I can't tell you who else is coming in, but to come in and talk about these proposals, talk about, what is going on, what's really happening there, why this is happening, and to answer questions about all of this. The public will not be able to ask questions, but the task force members will be able to ask questions to get to the bottom of some of this as well. That was the 10-minute spiel.
Okay.
What questions do you guys have? And I will say, a lot of controversy, and a lot of anger, which totally understandable. But the biggest thing we want to make sure people do is that they submit their public comments on this, that they're talking to, that they're also, talking with their legislators. The thing is, this is not a legislative matter. This is an administrative rule change. So really the way you have to start this whole process is through that public comment piece. When they submitted those original proposals in October, they got very, very few public comments on that. And part of that is because we do have 5 different waivers. So between the 5 waivers, I'm not joking, that's like 1,800 pages of materials to go through. I forgot the biggest piece of this too, because I'm focusing on the controversy. The aged and disabled waiver, as it currently stands, is going to be broken into 2 pieces. Individuals who are 59 and younger will be moved over to the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services. They're going to go over to BEADS, which is now the Bureau of Disability Services. They changed their name July 1st of last year to they are no longer the Bureau of Developmental Disability Services. They're the Bureau of Disability Services, because they knew this was going to happen. Okay.
Good.
Did you say 55 or 59?
59, 59. Okay. Because
that is not the traditional number. I'm like,
well,
sorry, you threw me completely off.
and it's because individuals age 60 and older, because you think of the cutoff as 60 and older, will be moved to something called the Pathways for Aging waiver. The big difference here is that waiver, both the medical services and the home and community-based services, will be managed care. There are 3 managed care companies who will be providing all of this. It's going to be Anthem, United Healthcare, and Humana. Sorry.
Well, aren't they happy as clams? All right.
So individuals 60 and older who are on what is currently the aged and disabled waiver will be moved over to the Pathways for Aging waiver. Also, individuals in institutional settings who are 60 and older. So people who are in nursing homes, but who do not have IDD will also be placed into managed care as opposed to fee-for-service Medicaid. So that is a huge change. And so we have the 5 proposals that have been submitted to CMS that are open for public comment on the home and community-based services side. There are also 2 proposals submitted in, I think it's 2, where it's talking about the health coverage side of things. So there are 2 different proposals for public comment for the Pathways for Aging waiver. One is for the home and community-based services part. That's the 1915C. Then there's another proposal for the for the health coverage side, which is 1950B as in boy. I don't want to have to read those. Then there's also a public comment out on Hoosier Care Connect. Again, it's the health coverage side of that. When we talk about waivers, we tend to think about home and community-based services. That drives the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning up the wall, because to them, waiver is a bigger term. It means any deviation from the way that Medicaid is supposed to work in writing, and you have to apply to get an exception to that. Those are all waivers to them. So I'm sitting here and seeing Catherine just kind of nod her head and go, yep. So there is a lot going on right now. But the big difference is that this public comment period is only a 30-day public comment period. Yeah, Krista, go right ahead, my dear.
Sorry,
No,
this has already come up this week. So you can see I put a bunch of links and things in the chat, how to contact FSSA, make your public comment, contact your local legislator, all that is a huge advocacy issue, especially in the IDDD community.
Yeah.
I was curious if APSI had made any comment yet, either nationally or the Indiana chapter, as far as this goes. I think Public Policy Committee is meeting maybe even today. I have to go back and check my calendar, but didn't know if they had chimed in on any of this, and especially any of this will impact the supported or customized employment piece, which a lot of people don't realize. The waivers, once those that vocational rehabilitation dollars have been spent, those long-term supports and all that fall on those waivers to provide the funding for those direct service providers and a lot of the folks that we work with. So
I don't know if
just curious if they had.
I don't know if INAPSI has formally laid out a position or if they are planning to submit public comment. I know with the family support waiver and the CIH waiver, at least with the initial amendments, most of the changes were about employment, and they were actually really good changes. I'm hoping none of that has changed. Like I said, I'm trying to dig through now and actually do a deep dive into all of this to get ready for our public comment on all of this. I also earlier in the chat, we have a page dedicated to all of these changes. So I put that link in there with all the fact sheets that we have. The state is planning to issue a communication on this by close of business tomorrow, to answer some of the questions they have gotten and to clarify some of the information. Again, they plan to issue that by close of business tomorrow. That is not about any sort of changes in response to public outcry. That is simply them saying, okay, here's what this really says. Okay, so I do want to clarify that, because even when their communication comes out, if somebody doesn't see that they have responded to all of this outcry, it's because that's not what it was designed for. It was designed to answer questions and clarify information. Okay. We are also working with them to try to set up a series of webinars. My hope is to actually have one webinar per waiver. So one just on pathways for aging, one just on the health and wellness waiver, one just on the TBI waiver. I'll probably merge together family support and CIH, because those changes were pretty minor beforehand. And then a webinar on how to submit public comment, how to share your story, those sorts of things. but I'm coordinating calendars with state staff right now to set that up. As soon as that's set up, I will absolutely share that with Jeremy so that because we're going to blast that to the world. So I know that was a ton. So sorry about that. But what other questions do you guys have?
No, thank you. Like I said, this has been a hot topic for our staff.
Yeah.
Right now. And actually, it was one of the staff members that brought it to my attention. And as soon as I saw it, I immediately was like, had to learn as much as I, could, started doing my research, started going into the regs and all that stuff, and I thought, part of it, they're going to fall back on, the CMS approved, they're going to try to, push it around back to, the federal agency. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the General Assembly to do the right thing for Hoosiers. So we'll see how it goes. So I appreciate your advocacy and your information and everything. Well, the thing is,
this is only day 8. It feels like it has been an eternity. This is day 8.
So the question that I have, and I don't know if anybody would actually be able to answer it, but are the sills all over this? And I know you're not. I think you're not there.
I think everybody in the disability world is dealing with this. I think part of this, one of the things to keep in mind, and I'm going to say this kind of selfishly because this is day 8 since these proposals were actually announced. And so part of it has been trying to dive through, figure out what is actually in there. There's a ton of misunderstanding and a ton of misinformation, and therefore a lot of backlash over arguing about what is accurate, what is not accurate. So I think right now everybody's still trying to dig through and figure out what all specifically is truly in there. But I do think, especially with the sills, I think they're all trying to encourage people to submit public comment. I know that the Governor's Council is trying to put together a coalition of different organizations to kind of come together so that, first of all, we're not duplicating efforts, and also so that we're kind of coordinating some of the things that we're all doing, just so that we've got a little bit of strategy there and all that. So not that I'm trying to speak for you, Sonia. I want you to do that. I'm just jumping in because I just do that.
Yeah, that's okay. What I can share is that we definitely are aware. It was put in our awareness 2 days ago. Okay. And so there have been a lot of, so the links and stuff that I have that I just found or that was just posted and I will be sending across. But yes, I know that we are on it.
Good.
One thing I do want to highlight is that we've gotten a few calls from people who have tried to submit public comment and their public comment was denied or bounced back. It's because these have different email addresses that you send them to. So you want to make sure that you are sending it to the correct email address. Okay. And selfishly, I'll tell you the easiest way to find that is to go to our waiver page and look. We've got a fact sheet called Be Heard, and submit your public comment. That way, they've got the current email addresses for this version of the proposals.
So that's up on the ARC's website at this point. Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you for all of that. I think this month I'll also be publishing the closed captions because there's no way that we can capture all of that. Any other questions before we wrap up? Any other comments before we wrap up? Okay. So you guys know, I did mention that I'm having the surgery. I'm essentially suspending business operations for the next couple of weeks because I don't want to make decisions while on pain meds. and then actually in later in February, this is kind of cool. This is a neat announcement. I have been accepted into the ADA Trainer Leadership Network. So the Great Lakes ADA Center is actually bringing me to Chicago to train me on their curriculum, which I'll then be able to provide and share with anybody who needs it. So so that's an exciting thing. But so I will be kind of in and out of communication over the next couple of weeks. But Carly, please, I mean, don't hesitate. Make
if you don't mind,
certain,
I'll just hit a reply all to one of the things you sent.
please do. Please do. Yeah.
So, and congratulations, Jeremy.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited
Yeah.
to do that. So
I'm excited to have you on board with me. So I
yes.
joined in 2017. I think
cool.
I was probably one of the early alums and have continued with it. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'll be looking forward to connect with you on that too. You'll be joining
cool.
the ADA Leader and Trainer Network.
I can't wait. So yeah, that's awesome. And then we'll see. There's a whole bunch of interesting things going on. Like I told Carly earlier, one thing that I can't talk about yet, but if that happens, it actually changes Walking Spirit in a great many ways. So we'll see what occurs with that in the near future. My website is actually going to go down for a week or so. Because it is transitioning to one that will be professionally managed and not run by me. So hopefully that will be very different in the coming days as well. We got 3 minutes left. Any closing comments, thoughts from anybody, or do you want a little extra time for a bio break? Okay. Thank you, Carly, for being put on the spot. I know this was not planned for today, but my God, that was so very, very important. And thank you so much for sharing all of that information. Those of you who joined us, thank you so much. Please, I've heard a couple organizations mentioned today that have never joined us. So please, when you get that invite, please share it with others who you think should be here. So thank you. And I'll see you all hopefully on February 27th. I think that is, or no, that would be the Tuesday, February 29th. Or no. Yeah, actually, we're going to bump this next month to that date because February 22nd, I will be in Chicago for that Trainer Leadership Network. So we'll do February 29th.
When do you come back from that, by the way?
I will be back that evening. So.
Oh, okay. So it's just a one and done.
It's February 20th to the 22nd that I'll be up there. So.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Well, I'll be in town the week of the 26th. So.
Okay, cool. Well, then we'll have to
plan
another brunch or dinner.
Yeah.
All right.
Who knows? Maybe even a Pacers game. Who knows?
Okay, that's interesting. That could be fun too. All right. As always, stay in touch throughout the month. If anybody has any questions or needs anything, let me know. And yeah, Carly, like I said, even though I'm taking time off, hit me up on email with all this stuff, please. So, all right. Be well, all.
Bye. Thank you.